Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, welcome back, everybody. And I'm joined by the one and only, I love when Frankie Hart comes on. Hey, Frankie, so nice to have you back on the show. Love your show, and welcome back.
Thank you, Casey. Awesome to be here and excited to share this topic today.
I gotta ask you. I'm sure that you get asked this all the time, or people wonder. I mean, someone like an athlete like yourself, who is spiritually somewhere up here, knows is so the word I'm looking for is enlightened, and a teacher, someone who teaches information both athletically and spiritually. How many times are you physically doing a workout with yoga or Pilates or Qigong?
Yes.
Or how many workouts are you doing a day? I mean, I know you're teaching, so do you get a workout when you're teaching?
Absolutely. This is a great question. And the only thing I want to say is I am on a path of enlightenment. I have not arrived. And that is part of what we're going to be talking about today, right? So that is definitely where I'm pointing, because I feel joy and strength and happiness when I'm moving in that direction. So what I share when I'm teaching teachers is that my teaching comes from my personal practice. Okay. And I know, Casey, that if I ever were to stop practicing personally, I would stop teaching. I would. If I had to make a choice, I would stop teaching and I would come back home and develop my own practice again. And then probably I would be motivated to start teaching again. So yes, and I'm very busy at the studio, but I'm never so busy that I miss time to do my own personal practice. I start every morning with a meditation and a standing meditation, actually. And then I move throughout the day. Some days I save longer periods of time to do, like, say, a 2-hour practice. And some days I do shorter practices throughout the day. Gotcha. Just depending on how I'm serving other students.
I was curious because you know how doctors have to go to doctors.
Yes.
Do you have to go to another expert to take time to take a class or something like that, or does it work that way?
Those are great questions. I would say that I don't have to, but I love to. Okay. I want to be, when I'm 100, if I live that long, I want to be taking a class somewhere. Right. And I have so many interests, the anatomy of the body, the biomechanics of the body, the energy of the body, healing from trauma, yoga, all of the disciplines you mentioned, the practices of Tai Chi. And there are so many brilliant people right now that we can access even in a way we couldn't. It's like right before our session, we were talking about you and I maybe could get together and do a Zoom session together, right? So as much as the pandemic shut down some things, some of my dearest teachers, I've been able to connect to even more now because even when my one teacher, she's, in her mid 80s and she has figured out all of this technique and we get to Zoom meet with each other. And it's really beautiful, really, really beautiful. But I always want to be learning and growing. I feel it's it's my nature. Yeah. But as a teacher, we want to be a student. And as a student, we are teachers. If we don't realize, even our first class in something, we're teaching ourselves. The teacher in the room is co-teaching us, but we are also, awakening the teacher within.
I love that about you, because once you think that you can't learn from someone else, that becomes a know-it-all, and that's going to serve nobody, not even the know-it-all, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely right. Yeah. And that rigidity, it doesn't serve you. So I was studying anatomy with Tom Myers several times and over the years, and he in one small workshop, I think there were 10 of us, he said that if you're teaching the same way you were teaching 5 years ago, now you should stop teaching.
Wow. That point. Yeah.
And he was really trying to motivate. It was a room of, there were 10 movement teachers, and he is a manual therapist. So he's working with his hands and we're working with movement. But he really wanted to awaken in people, like, if you are not growing and considering even how science and the science of the body is growing, right?
Yeah.
There's so much information out there right now that we didn't have before. And it helps us fine tune these ancient practices.
Gotcha. And I think that kind of leads us to what I wanted to get you to talk about today. When you say that you're not only where you are also where you're going. I think that's a great, very intriguing statement. And I was wondering if I could give you the floor and you could give me your thoughts on that statement.
Absolutely. So this concept came intuitively to me as I was teaching a class, and then it just kept unfolding over the next week or so of classes. If we consider, like, Google Maps is looking down and it says, there is Casey, boom, here, in this chair, in this city, in this location. And that moment is frozen in time. It is accurate that yes, you are there, but you are a being, you are a dynamic being. And so even though you are right there, you are in motion internally. Where are you pointing to? So it's like, we're not just a dot on a map, we're a dot that is already pointing to or moving in a direction. And that movement occurs first vibrationally within us, then through thought, and then through our physical movement, right?
If I can interrupt just for a second.
Yes.
I'm just confused about, are we talking about in a couple hours or whatever, I will be driving home prepared to make dinner first thing. That's where I'm going. But at the same time, I'm also going, trying to be the best person I am, trying to be the best family member I could be, and going in a whole bunch of different ways and different destinations. So for this conversation, are we talking about the one for all general, or are we talking about the Elio's pizzas I'm going to put in the oven for dinner tonight?
We're talking about both. We're kind of talking about it on a macroscopic level and on a microscopic level. Okay. So the car is a great analogy. So we could say, literally, you're in the car and you're driving home, right? And you're driving home, and you know that when you get home, you're pre-paving that you're going to be making dinner.
Don't get mad at me for what I'm eating, by the way.
No problem. And as long as you enjoy it, I'm good with that. But then inside, so you're in the car. Where's your mind? What are you thinking about? Like, are you really in the car thinking about going home and being with your family and da-da-da? Or are you in the car obsessing about your day? Are you stressing that this didn't happen well at work? Or are you worried about something that's going to happen next week? Or are you excited about a future trip you're having, right?
Yeah.
And so all of these thoughts, that how we are focusing our mind, are like pointers, right? And our energy is moving in that direction. So if I'm in the car, and it happens when relationships are new, and that's why they're so sweet. We're in the car and we're thinking, oh, I'm going home to this person,
right.
Or my new puppy. I have a new puppy at home. Yeah. In the moment, you're just like, and the whole ride home, you're thinking about that new puppy. But unfortunately, that doesn't last very long, right? And we get in the car and we're consumed with all of these other things that take us in different directions. Yes. Now, you said something so beautiful there, Casey. You said, working to be the best family member that I could be, right? So that's a pointer. That's an intention. So say I get in the car, and that's a new segment of my day, and I'm leaving work behind. I could take time when I'm in the car to actually align my thoughts. Are my thoughts moving in a direction of being the best family member that I can be when I get there, right?
Got it. Nice. Yeah.
It's fun, right?
That's easy to understand. And that's a great, very easy aspect topic to get. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so if I'm doing that, or if I'm thinking, oh, my family and or I am going to go on this great training or this great vacation next week, next year, whatever, that's still aligning you. You're pointing in a direction you want to go. If you're in the car and you're just like, oh, this horrible traffic, and this, I don't like this, and oh, this is horrible, and woe is me, and why does this, life is so difficult, all of a sudden you're pointing, or my work sucks, whatever, you're now pointing and putting your energy in a direction that you don't want to be going in,
Great thought.
right?
Great thought. Yeah.
And we've talked about before that your emotion is your GPS, right? So you could say, well, Frankie, I don't know what direction I want to go in. And I would say, well, how do you feel when you think that thought, right? So do I feel good? Then yeah, I like where I'm pointing. I like what I'm looking at. I like what I'm considering and focusing on. Do I not feel good? No, hell no. I don't feel good at all thinking about this. Then turn your mind, change the channel, start thinking about something else. Now, it can seem difficult at first that, sometimes the people we love the most are the ones that at times are hard to think about, right? Because we have quarrels, right? And we have, dissonance. So in the moment that you're thinking about that person, if you can't feel good, it actually serves the relationship to think about something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
That old phrase, go for a walk. Well, when you go for a walk, walk it up. You shouldn't be thinking, oh my gosh, this person is terrible. Hopefully you're going for a walk and going, oh, the fresh air and these trees are beautiful. And you see, you're refocusing yourself. You're taking care of your side of the equation. And regardless of what happens with the other person, you show up much more aligned as your authentic self with your core values in front of you as you make the choices moving forward, right?
Yeah, that's a great technique. It really is. Because what I got from it, and I don't know if people are agreeing with me here on this, but the great example is driving home. If you're thinking about all these horrible things that you have to do and you don't want to do, that's gonna for right there. That's the direction that you're going in, if I can understand this.
Absolutely, Casey. And that's the self that shows up at the door to your family.
Got it. So if I want to be the best family person I can, you know, I would assume rather than getting all upset about the things I got to do and I don't want to do, maybe I make a phone call to a member of my family, just tell them I love them or something like that, and then see if that rearranges the direction I'm in. Does that make any
Sure.
sense? So is that what we're talking
Absolutely.
about?
And it can be an active behavior like that. Like I'm going to reach out and say, hey, I love you, or I'm thinking about you. Already you've shifted. Right
Yeah.
now you're in that vibration of love and appreciation of this person in your family. You've reached out, you're helping them, but you're also helping you, right?
Yeah.
And it could also be just in your mind, just in your mind. You're thinking, oh, work is done right now. I'm not getting any work done here, sitting in the car stressing about it. But I could think about, oh, what would be something fun to enjoy with my family when I get home, right?
Yeah.
I'm giving the things that are valued to me my attention.
How hard is it to change that discipline?
It's not hard at all in the moment, but you have to work moment to moment to moment to moment, right? Right. So it's not this big grand gesture,
yeah.
but it takes a discipline to go, hey, I'm not feeling really good. Or my mind, I've shared before, sometimes I use this expression, I'm in a bad neighborhood in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm the only one keeping me here.
Right. Right.
Right.
Frankie, I was just thinking that with this way of thinking, I bet there's some kind of correlation between this and yoga strengthening it. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when it comes to working with your physical body, I want you to think about this. Your body is dynamic. And even when we're in stillness, we are already moving towards a direction. So, for instance, in yoga, Tadasana is mountain pose, where you're standing very well. You're in a balanced standing position on 2 feet, you're standing well. And then maybe the next moment is you're going to do Utkatasana, which is a chair pose, like a higher level, say, squat, right?
Okay.
Before you make that action, you have the intention of making that action. And so your body is already pre-paving the movement in your mind and through the physiology of your body. So how much you know about that pose gives you, right, more and more information about how to pre-pave. So you're in action before you're in action. Now, one of the things I was working on today in my therapeutic yoga class is that sometimes when we are older and we go to sit, or say we have a very sedentary life and we go to do a standing seated pose, like a standing squat, we are falling into the joints. We just go down. We go down to go down, right? And our weight falls into our knees, it falls into our feet, it falls into our ankles, and it's not very comfortable. And sometimes even you'll hear like a crunching sound in the knee, like that. What is that? That's not, intuitively, that's not good, right?
Right.
So in that situation, you are where you are, and then where are you going? In that person's mind, they're down in a chair position, but they're still going down. When we understand the biomechanics of the body and the artistry of the pose, we actually have ascending action as we're staying in the seated pose. So we have this beautiful phrase, we go up to go down, right? And we go down to go up, right? So in other words, if I'm doing a handstand, I have to go down into my arms and down into my hands with the force of gravity to get my body up. If I'm doing chair pose, I need to lift up through the extensor muscles of my back, and I need to pull my quadriceps up so they have tone, which protects my knees and my ankles. So even very physically, I am where I am, which you could say, oh, I'm in a static pose, right? Like somebody could take a picture. That is me in the static pose. But there's nothing static about the body at all. The body is in action. And where are you taking that action? So if you're actually know how to work the body in that counter forces that support you, you're dancing with gravity, you're not falling into gravity, right?
Okay.
Then you're actually going up. And so many times when my students are working this way and they start to understand this, they're like, oh my gosh, that's like a miracle. Like my knees don't hurt anymore. I feel strong. I always had this crunching sound. Now I don't have it, because they understand now that they're going up to go down, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
And in Tai Chi, we have this beautiful image of an empty step. So an empty step means that I go from having my weight on 2 feet to putting my weight on only one, or to having my weight only on 1 foot and letting the other foot move forward in space, weightless. Like you could think like the walk of a cat, right?
Okay.
Cat, like they touch out there and they're like, oh, not yet.
Yeah, right.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Cats are the best empty steppers, right? I love my dog too, but those cats got the empty step down.
They look graceful.
They are so graceful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we could say, what allows that step to be empty? Well, I am where I am, but I'm also where I'm going. So I have this intention that I'm going to step forward with 1 foot. If I'm going to take an empty step forward, the only way I can do that, Casey, is by making my other leg full. I cannot put 1 foot out there without weight if I still have weight in it. Of course, that's obvious.
Right.
But what we often don't think is, well, how do I get the weight out of that? I have to make my other leg full. Now, this is a perfect metaphor. In other words, I have to be really grounded in where I am and have a pointing in the direction of where I'm going.
Okay.
And then that empty step, that next move forward, is both graceful and powerful.
Got it. I assume confidence plays a big part in that too.
Absolutely. And so if we look metaphorically at being where you are, right? So most of our problems as humans is we go, I don't like where I am. I don't want to be here. I want to be over there, right?
Yeah, right.
So the empty step says, well, guess what? We have to really be okay with where we are, in the acceptance of where we are, so that we can fully understand ourselves and understand our situation. And from that, now I can move forward, right? But if I'm always running around, not allowing myself to be in the present moment, it's very difficult to make a true, authentic move forward, right? We use, what do we call it? We use things that numb us. right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
if I don't like where I am, I'm gonna numb myself, my condition in 100 different ways,
A
right?
million ways. Yeah.
There's so many, right?
Hmm.
And then I come out of that numbing, and then I go, oh, I'm still where I don't like where I am, but I'm no further forward, right? I'm no further. Whereas if I can, in acceptance, it's like, I love acceptance is like forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't say, hey, what happened is okay. It's not saying that. It's not saying, you can just keep doing that. No. Acceptance and forgiveness means that I release this, right? I can accept my situation, my part of this right now in this moment. This is me. This has happened. And as I forgive it, I release it. I
Mm.
release it. If I can't release it, I can't come forward, right? Without it, I'm continuously carrying it forward. Maybe 20, 30 years, I'm carrying it forward. And I love that, because that is another form of resistance, right?
Mm.
Which resistance has weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to move forward with this metaphor of an empty step, if I have resistance, I'm held. It's very heavy. It's a lot of work, right?
Got it. Yeah.
So let's make that more real. If a person says overweight or doesn't like their body shape, let's just say shape, right?
Okay.
And they say, yeah, but Frankie, I don't like where I am. I only want to be where I'm going, right? Nope. But the only way we can get where we're going is by inhabiting the body, right? And the body's listening to you. So if we can say that, yes, my goal, my intention, my inner being really I want to be in a free body. I want to be in a, light body. I want to be in a comfortable body to move and grow older gracefully. Those are all beautiful things that every person deserves to have, right? So then I have to say, well, okay, and this is where I am now, and that's okay. Because if I'm not okay with where I am, I can't move forward from where I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you got to acknowledge where you are right now and be honest with yourself.
Yes, which brings us to a concept of contentment, or santosha. Santosha is a Sanskrit word from the Yoga Sutras, and it means contentment. Contentment doesn't mean I don't get to dream. Contentment doesn't mean I'm just lazy and I'm just going to let everything happen to me the way it happens. Not at all. Contentment means that I feel a contentment, an inner source of acceptance and gratitude with where I am right now, even as I'm moving in the direction of where I want to be.
Oh, okay.
That contentment not only stops us from leaking all this energy out of our life with resistant thoughts and self-critical thoughts that don't help us move forward at all, but it actually nourishes us, right? It says, instead of going, oh, why can't I be, say, 50 pounds lighter? Instead, the contentment thought says, I have this healthy body, right? I can walk, I can move, my organs are healthy, or, whatever it is, you can find in your own personal situation, I have these aspects to be content with. And then as I focus on that, Casey, I can build from there, right?
Gotcha. There's a big difference. If I'm hearing it correctly, big difference between content and complacency.
Oh, beautifully said. Beautifully said. Yes.
Okay, I think I get it. I get what you're saying.
Absolutely. And then we have this concept of svadhyaya. Svadhyaya is self-study. And you were kind of referring to that earlier. How do I know, right? I have to know myself.
Yeah.
If I listen to myself, if I tune in, and listening to yourself, observing yourself is a way of becoming that metaphor of being full in the one leg, really present in the moment. If I'm present in the moment and I start to know myself, I can really find how to direct my next step. If I don't know myself, maybe I'm directing my next step based on what everybody else has told me to do in life. My parents, my culture, whatever, my teachers at school. And so I'm moving forward, but I really don't have a sense of purpose or meaning or accomplishment. I don't feel success. And I have very little energy to do that, because that's really draining, isn't it? It sounds draining for me to just say it.
It does.
Like, oh my goodness, right?
Right.
But if I know myself, Or let's just say that, because that's sort of like being enlightened. To really know yourself could be like, say, the enlightenment, right? And because as we really know ourselves, we really know that we're one with all that is, all this resistance is gone. We're in a state of this kind of pure love, right? So we're always in the state of learning to know ourselves. And as we're learning to know ourselves, we can focus more and more clearly towards our authentic self and towards building this authentic life.
Got it.
So I am where I am, and this is me now, but everything that I am now is an indication of where I've been, right? So if you look at your physical body, right, that's an indication of everywhere you've been. But your inner being is no longer there. Your inner being is already pointing forward. Yeah?
Got it.
And when we align with our inner being, wow, things really start to move.
Frankie, that was a great lesson today. Awesome. We're way out of time here, but let me thank you for that. And thank you for everyone who wrote in. I didn't get to, but Frankie, let me give you the last word here. Great lesson today. That was really, really something special. You'll see when you watch this one back. That was a good one.
Thank you. I'm going to read something I wrote. I love how you give me the last word moment. So I wrote something for it. The people closest to us, the people in our life closest to us, support us, but they cannot tell us what our true self is or what our true self looks like. That has to come from within us. The concept of Svadhyaya, again, self-study here, is through self-reflection and meditation. I can tune into my inner self, and that is what calls me forward to become the best version of myself. And that best version is showing up authentically in the present moment, content with where I am, and pointing in the direction of where I want to go.
Love it. Thank you, Frankie. How do we get a hold of you on that?
Perfect. You can get a hold of me at satyalife.com, SATYA life.com, or you can call the yoga studio, Tai Chi Studio, at 863-802-YOGA.
All right. That's the one and only Frankie Hart. Thank you so much, Frankie. Can't wait to hear what you have to say next.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.